hard to describe. It's very peaceful, very quiet. It's a whole new world of noises, whole new world of sights, and it's fun.
Bismarck's Liz Dyer isn't talking about walking on the moon. She's currently taking scuba lessons, and if you've ever wondered what's on the bottom of Lake Sakakawea, or maybe the Missouri River, well, scuba's the only way to find out. Randy Kraft of Scuba One has been giving lessons for 10 years, and he dispels two of the sport's most popular myths.
The misconceptions are that people they think it's tougher than it is. They think it's more expensive than it is. When you use the breathing part, the regulator, it just, as you draw in, it gives you air as you draw. Also, the equipment, you push one button and it brings you up, makes you float. You push another button and it makes you sink.
Before you become a diver, you have to be a student. Half of a scuba lesson is spent in the classroom, learning equipment use and safety procedures before you take your first plunge.
Oh, it's real important. The classroom and book part is just as long as the pool, and in some cases it can actually be longer.
Once you've mastered the basics, scuba can open up a whole new world of recreation. Underwater photography, both still and video, has exploded in recent years. And for travelers, the possibilities become limitless.
If you do any traveling at all regularly, if you go to the Caribbean or to Hawaii or any place like that, then this just opens up a whole nother chapter, something else to do.
To become a certified diver, you must be at least 12 years old. But Kraft says you can never be too educated.
Just like anything else, it's an ongoing process. Nobody knows it all, and things are constantly changing. So you should always keep up on it.
With this week's Outdoors Report, I'm Ed Kendall, Meyer Television Sports.
In Shawnee, Oklahoma, after the second, what it's like to go spearfishing.
When you talk about loading up the boat and heading out on the big lake, it usually means fishing. Well, believe it or not, that's exactly what these guys are doing. But they're going about it just a little bit differently. Spearfishing with scuba gear.
Well, I think spearfishing really is North Dakota's best-kept secret for a sporting event. It gives you the best of both worlds. You get a chance to go out and catch fish, but yet you get the aspect of hunting.
It's a lot like bird hunting, a lot like pheasant hunting, where you're walking down a field waiting for a bird to flush. Here we wait for a fish to flush. We wait to see that white tail of the walleye, and when you see that, we zero in and go in for the kill.
Walleye and northern are the primary targets, and our underwater anglers say the best depth is about 20 to 30 feet. Strange as it may sound, spearfishing is a lot like traditional fishing.
We basically fish the same way that an angler on top of the water would fish. We look for structure.
All the elements are in favor of the fish. You know, they got the environment down there. They're quicker, they're faster, they can hide from you, they can see you before you see them. Everything's on their side. You got one shot, one spear.
In this sport, the spear gun is equivalent to a rod and reel. Now, although the range is only about 8 to 10 feet, if you don't know the tricks of the trade, you'll probably be eating hamburger for dinner.
When you're fishing, you have to remember that there's a bit of a refractive index. I find that if I aim towards their bellies rather than the middle of the fish, I end up hitting the fish in the middle. When you see them, it's great. When you don't, it's still a lot of fun. And at least we don't have to worry about whether the fish are biting or not.
At Lake Sakakawea, Ed Kendall, Meyer Television Sports.
Welcome to Pleasant Journey. I'm Becky Hulskamp, your host. We're sponsored by the Bismarck Veterans Public Library. This travel program is brought to you once a month with a different local person who has gone to very interesting places in his travels. During the pirate days of Blackbeard and Sir Henry Morgan, the Cayman Islands in the Caribbean were perfect hideouts for the treasures plundered from the Spanish galleons. These days, their reputation has revolved almost 180 degrees. And Randy Kraft is my guest, who will tell us about the Cayman Islands. Thank you for being with us today, Randy.
Thanks for asking me.
Now, Randy is owner and instructor of Scuba One diving outfitters in Bismarck. Because of your interest in water sports, you've lived and worked in some very popular island resorts. Could you tell us where you've been?
Yeah, in the Caribbean, I lived in Jamaica for 5 winters teaching at a resort. And then I've been running trips to Grand Cayman and Cozumel, as my main spots, and also the Bahamas, Lake Superior, for taking groups of people down to scuba dive. When I lived in Jamaica, though, there was always you could have one stop on the plane to get back to the States, and the only place you could stop was Grand Cayman. So every year I always made a trip to Grand Cayman, and once I started going down there, then I started taking groups down there.
I see. Well, then more recently you began organizing the scuba diving groups after you lived in Jamaica.
Right.
And then later on in the show, then we will see some of the slides and the video that Randy has brought back with him from the Caymans. Now, the Cayman Islands as a vacation destination is superb for diving or just relaxation. It is surprising to know that prior to 1976, they were described by romantic travel writers as the islands time forgot. Back then, you could buy waterfront beaches for $50 a running foot. Through hard work and congeniality, the Cayman people have transformed a backwater colony of Great Britain into a diving mecca, international tax haven, and a thriving tourist resort. Now beachfront that's left is selling for $10,000 plus a running foot. Randy, do you think this continual growth has changed your enjoyment of visiting the Cayman? Because how many times have you been there now? How many years?
Probably 7 years I've been I've been there. The last 3 or 4 I've taken groups down.
Do you think it's changed your enjoyment at all because it's getting so commercialized?
Yeah, it's getting rather commercialized. They have put a stop on a number of hotels that can be built there, but the prices have been going up. It's high, but it's not. It's higher than a lot of places, but it's not excessive compared to some of the other Caribbean resorts. Last year I ran a trip to Grand Cayman and then a trip to Cozumel, Mexico, and the flight to Mexico was $100 more, but the rooms were $100 more in Cayman, so the trip was about the same price, except for food would be more in Cayman.
In Cayman. Well, the islands are a very prosperous British colony with some 500 offshore banks located in Georgetown. It is not a travel bargain, like you said, in dollars and cents. So what do you think the reason is for the continued tourist popularity there?
Well, it's much more stable than a lot of the other Caribbean islands, and it's a British colony, and so people feel more at home there. They speak proper English, and we feel it seems more like the States.
Well, the Caymans have a low incidence of crime because of its prosperity and high employment. Do you think that could reflect on the tourists' enjoyment of the Caymans?
That helps a lot too.
Well, like compared to going to Mexico and you see the poverty?
Right.
Do you see
no poverty.
that?
Yeah, you don't see poverty in Cayman. You don't have the hustlers like you do in Mexico or Jamaica. People don't bother you. It's more like being around up here, for instance, more like home.
Well, the Caymans rank among the top scuba diving destinations in the world. And I have a diagram here. Now, could you tell us what features on the islands make them unique?
Well, the reef is only 400 miles offshore, so it's a short ride. Also, the side that most people dive on it's protected from the wind, so you don't have the waves. And then once they get out there, the Cayman Trench brings in fresh food for the fish all the time. So then they have a good fish population. Also, they've got a good control of the marine park type atmosphere, so people aren't out there shooting the fish and catching them to eat all the time. So there's a lot of marine life out there.
Well, this is the Cayman Trench now that you mentioned, and does that go for a long area in that part of the ocean?
Right, in the Caribbean, if you can see it on this little diagram down here, the Cayman Trench runs quite a long ways along there, but the Cayman Islands are close to the edge of the trench.
And Cuba is here, and Caymans is right under Cuba, but the trench is very, very long.
Right.
And it extends, well, like on this map, it says in this area it extends 3,200 feet down to the bottom. So the diver is just...
The first 100 feet is...
First 100?
Yeah, first 130 feet is what we would deal with.
And so this area, is this good for snorkeling then too?
Yeah, and
because it gradually...
Right. Well, on this, on Cayman, a lot of it is beachfront. Surprisingly, there's quite a bit of beach for considering that there's good diving out from it. But if you get further down, close to town, then it gets deeper, closer to shore, and there's good scuba diving in there and snorkeling. That's where the cruise ships come in.
Mm-hmm. The photographers have described Grand Cayman as one of the best spots for underwater photography. What is it about the islands that makes photography so outstanding?
Well, the water's clear, and they don't have the currents to deal with. The fish are large, and they're friendly. The fish come right in. The sponges are huge. So there's lots to take pictures of, and it's easier to take pictures of things there.
Mm-hmm. Before a person goes scuba diving, what preparations does a diver have to take to fully enjoy this beautiful area?
So the right thing to do would be to take classes before you go down there, so that you don't have to spend the week reading the book and doing practicing different diving drills before you get in the water.
It would take a week?
Yeah, you'd spend a lot of time of the week taking the classes. So the thing to do would be to do the classroom and pool part of the course up here, and then when you get down there, all you have to do is just make the diving part, which just makes it a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. Once you get down there, though, is there any special equipment that you have to dive? Or?
Yeah, they have equipment. You can either bring it down with you or rent it when you get there, as far as equipment to dive with.
Is it just as easy to rent some of the things rather than taking everything down with you?
Well, it depends. I know I rented quite a bit of stuff for people to take down with them, because they're familiar with the equipment that they use, and usually I make it cheaper for them.
Oh.
So save them a few bucks, and they're not using. They know exactly what they're going to be dealing with when they get there.
Mm-hmm. Well, as you have mentioned, the Cayman underwater world has spectacular coral canyons and abundant marine life, some that are very friendly to humans, which your video shows. Hasn't the government how has the government protected this area so it isn't damaged by so many divers?
Yeah, they have permanent moorings put in so that the boats don't keep dropping their anchors and wrecking more coral. Also, there's no spearfishing allowed along the marine park area.
Well, do they have people who patrol that, or underwater people?
No, it's pretty much self-controlled. I mean, the dive masters that go in with you keep a pretty good watch over things. That's their means of living, so they don't want you to wreck things either.
Oh, the beauty of things,
Yeah.
or break off some coral
Right.
to take it home as a souvenir.
Right.
You can't do that.
No, because like coral grows ½ inch a year, so if you take and break a piece off that's 6 inches long, that's 12 years of growth.
Oh, do you have to explain that to the people before they dive?
Right.
To how careful they
Yeah.
have to be for that? And they have black coral down there.
Right.
Now that.
Well, not much off there, and most of that's really deep.
Oh.
Over it's deeper than what sport divers would dive. There's some around, but most of it's deeper because most of it's been picked already.
Oh, I see. So they did that before it was protected?
Yeah.
I see. Bob Soto started the first scuba diving operation in the Caribbean only 35 years ago, and now it's under new management, but it remains one of the largest. I'm sure many others have sprouted up along the beaches. How can a new diver to the area sort out all of these different and find the most economical and the reliable ones?
Right. That's tough. Cayman, they're pretty reliable as compared to the other islands. And I've dealt with quite a number of them already. So if they're really curious, I could call me and ask. But there's a few that I pretty much stick with, that I work with down there.
Are the prices pretty competitive?
Right. Yeah. They keep things pretty well. Everybody charges the same thing.
They do.
Yeah. It's tough to negotiate because they pretty much got things set.
Well, but if you wanted to make dive reservations when you get down there,
Right.
could you do that, or do you have
sure.
to do it beforehand?
No, you could do it when you get down there, but if you call them ahead of time, then you know who you'd be working with. You know what's going on.
And is there a specific time of the year that it's best to go down there?
Well, everybody up here wants to travel south in the wintertime, but actually the summertime would be the best because they're north of the equator just like we are, and so the weather's going to be better in the summer than it would be in the winter.
Oh, I see.
But the weather the water temperature changes about 5 degrees from summer to winter, and the air temperature changes about 10 degrees from summer to winter. Other than that, there's not much difference. It'd be less turbulent in the summer.
There are certain storms that come around.
In the winter especially.
Yes, the tropical storms, so you might have the water that would be pretty stirred up. As I mentioned, the caves and the coves of the island were a perfect hideout for pirates in their plundered Spanish galleons that when they were hauling riches from South America to Spain. And were there any sunken ships in the area that you could dive to hunt for treasure?
There's nothing that you can hunt for treasure, but there are a few wrecks around that you can dive on. People will dive the wrecks more because the fish are attracted to the wrecks because of the way the marine life grows. So there's a number of wrecks that you could dive just for that reason than for looking for sunken treasure.
Well, you know, when I think of the Cayman Wall, you know, and I think of it going straight down, and I know there's a wreck way down here, and that's like almost 1,000 feet down, but there must be ledges where these wrecks can rest then, because it isn't just straight down?
Usually if something wrecks, it's because it's hit something and there's nothing for it to hit out in the middle of the ocean, so it usually would hit the reef in order for it to...
And just get hung up on the reef?
Yeah. The wrecks that are out there now are more the type that were set there deliberately just for people to scuba dive on. There aren't too many wrecks that just happened upon.
I see.
A few,
well,
but
I know now I'd like to have Randy show us the slides that he has of some of the local people diving at the Caymans, and also some of the places that you can stay, and we will just see some of those right now.
My first slide is a picture of the condominium building that we've been renting the last couple times we've been down there. There's 4 units in the building, and we've been renting the whole building. This is a view the other direction from the building out to sea. So you have a nice view right from your porch. This is the inside of the condominium. Each one has a living room with a TV and VCR. Now here's the dive boat. Here are some local people, local Bismarck people going out, getting ready to go out on a dive. Here we are getting ready to jump into the water for the dive. Now this is a view just off that same boat heading down towards the reef. This is a boat we generally would use when we're going off the 7 Mile Beach area where most of the diving is done in Grand Cayman. There we are following the mooring line down. Now, if you follow a line down, you have a better control of your descents. And here's Don clearing his ears as he goes down. Yeah, these are tarpon. The big fish are tarpon, and the small fish I just call silverside. I don't know the exact name, but this is right off the shore. It's easy to swim to. These are some sponges that are just off the wall. You can see from the bright reds that the photographer was using a light. There's a big sponge. Another big sponge. On this shot, though, I used a wide-angle lens so that the sponge isn't as big as it might look. Another good sponge shot. Sponges are good to take pictures of because they don't swim away. There I am with this down in Stingray City, petting the rays. Somebody else with the rays. You can see how they come right in. They're waiting to get fed. They assume you have food in your hands because they're so used to that. Another Stingray City picture. Okay, I took this shot at night of an octopus. I took the octopus and threw him up into the water and just shot him as he was falling. Spotted eagle ray. Yep, that's it for the slides.
We certainly enjoyed the slides, and later on we'll see the video that Randy brought. Now, if a person wants to see the fabulous wall and the fish, but is not a diver, there's a 28-passenger submarine, Atlantis, which will give you a good view of underwater. What do you think the reactions of the tourists are when they come up from this dive?
Well, they like it, but it's more of they fill it full of people from the cruise ships mostly, people that don't scuba dive. Anybody can get in it and you just sit there and you can look at the fish and watch things go by. It's nice and simple.
Do you think it is worth the
Oh, sure.
the dive? 'Cause
Sure.
how far down do they go?
150 feet.
They do?
100 feet.
So that's just about as far as scuba
Diving,
divers?
right.
How do you go up more than 100?
No, not necessarily. Usually you don't go below 100. You can go down to 130,
Uh-huh.
but you usually don't do much below 100.
So, but they're just going to go straight down and up in the one area, and you can
Right.
choose different areas to.
Whatever we can travel in, or whatever we can swim in.
Uh-huh. Well, then that would be a good thing for the people who
That don't scuba dive, right?
because there aren't that many who
Right.
are lucky enough to have learned and have taken the instructions. Now, the Caribbean has always been a popular place for big game fishermen, and one of the hottest news spots is the Caribbean. What kind of fish draws these tourists?
Bonita, tuna, mackerel. Marlin is probably the main one.
Is it?
Yeah, they have marlin fishing tournaments.
Well, what would the cost be per person to charter a boat for several hours or for
Yeah.
half a day or something?
Yeah, so when I worked in Jamaica, we charged $265 a half a day for 4 people. So it's $65, well, whatever that works out to per person
So that
for 4 hours.
isn't so bad for an afternoon. You can play golf and
Right.
pay the same amount in California. Well, do these people get to what do they do with the fish afterwards?
Oh,
Do
usually they can't take it with them. If they have a big big marlin, they could get it. They could get it mounted, but most people don't because it's real expensive. So usually the local guys just eat it.
They do.
Yeah, because they can't take it with them. Or if you're really lucky, you can maybe find someone to cook it up for you. But usually they just fish for the sake of fishing. They don't get to keep the fish when they're done.
But the fish really aren't wasted then.
No,
once
no,
you
somebody
catch
eats them.
Somebody will eat them.
Yeah.
When you worked in Jamaica, did you eat a lot of?
No, I
game?
personally don't eat much fish.
Oh.
Not that kind of fish. But they'd fight over it, whenever the fish would come in. Everybody wanted it.
Uh-huh. Well, that's nice to know that if
Yeah.
somebody could enjoy catching it, and then also it's going to be
Right.
used, not thrown away. The main tourist attraction on the islands, other than diving, is the Cayman Turtle Farm, which is the only project of its kind in the world. Several thousand turtles are actually raised on the farm. Could you explain the purpose of this educational attraction?
Well, they're trying to turtle are an endangered species, so they're trying to raise turtles, and some they let go, and some they grow up to eventually harvest. So you can go in there and see the different turtles and see how they grow and learn about how they come about.
Mm-hmm. Well, there are turtles from day-old hatchlings to huge 600-pound. And due to the abundance of turtles, they must be common food in the Caymans.
Yeah, it's not that common. Turtle meat is kind of tough, but it's not a real common thing. You'll see it advertised, but it's not like it's a staple, an everyday staple.
Well, what kind of delicacy do they make at the restaurants? Is it?
Oh, turtle soup, turtle steak. It's kind of like a tough beef.
Is it?
Yeah.
Does it taste like anything that we could compare
like any
it
other
to?
kind of meat, just a little tougher, thinner. Usually they slice it thinner. I think that's because it's so tough.
Oh, I see. Well, if you want to take a day off from diving or lounging in the sun, what are some of the other features that the tourists can go to see?
Well, you can always go through the turtle farm. If you go up north on the island, there's a town called Hell, and there's a lot of rough iron shore out there, and they have a post office so people can send postcards from Hell. Then you could drive around the island, go to different parts of the island, see the little farms and the little towns, and see how people live, see other animals that grow or that are there, and that's the main thing.
Is it pretty just laid back?
Right, pretty slow.
In the back,
Right.
in the interior of the island?
Yeah, not much there. Water sports are their main thing.
I see. Well, what about, we talked about the black coral now.
Right.
Is that some of the things that you could shop for when you're there?
Yeah, you can shop for black coral, but a lot of people aren't so fired up about it because that's it's such a rarity. It's like somebody has to go out and pick it, and I mean you're killing off the coral that's growing
the
out there. Yeah, the
environmentalists
environmentalists aren't too fired up about that.
I see. Well, after a great day of scuba diving, where are the central places that the divers like to congregate in the evening and discuss their dives of the day?
Well, the Holiday Inn has the Barefoot Man who sings several times a week. Lately, they've had a comedy show the last few years. There's Ramada Inn. There's several nice hotels. Treasure Island, Ramada Inn, places like that that'll have night shows that you can go see.
Do many of the scuba divers go out at night? Or
Yeah,
do you have to get up so early in the morning that you have to?
It's
like,
pretty quiet. It's not a lot of nightlife in Cayman.
Sounds like the ski resorts. There's not much going on there because they want to get out on the slope so early. So I suppose it's the same with the scuba divers.
Right, and then the heat and the humidity wears you out too faster.
Oh, I would think so. Especially when we go there in the wintertime.
Right, we're not used to it.
It takes a body quite a few
Right.
days just to get used to that. So, well, there are actually 3 islands that make up
Right.
the Caymans, and we've mainly been talking about Grand Cayman Island. But Cayman Brac is a tiny island 80 miles east of Grand Cayman, and it is full of pirate legends, caves near the tall bluffs, and so that it really appeals to the amateur hikers and naturalists that want to go exploring the caves or just go explore the island. Is it appealing to divers also?
Right. Grand Cayman is the main island, but you've got Cayman Brac and Little Cayman, and that's not nearly as dove as much, so it's not as broken up. There aren't as many. It's more natural. There's 2 major hotels in Cayman Brac, and that you would have to work through. From there, you can take a boat over to Little Cayman. If you stay at Cayman Brac, you could just take a boat over and dive Little Cayman. There's not much in Little Cayman. Couple small hotels, but not little to nothing over there. So I usually want to stay in Cayman Brac.
But if it's 80 miles from Grand Cayman, you'd want to take a plane
Right.
because it would take quite a while.
Right,
on a
17-minute flight.
Okay. Otherwise, you're talking about quite a
Right,
few
long
hours
ways.
on the boat.
Right.
So have you ever been to
No.
Cayman Brac?
This winter, I'd like to go, instead of going to Grand Cayman, go half the time in Grand Cayman and then half the time in Cayman Brac. So it gives the people that have been to Grand Cayman someplace different to go, and new reefs and little different wildlife, different atmosphere. And at the same time, the people that haven't dove can go to Cayman and deal with the security and the ease of the diving in Grand Cayman.
Well, now I'd like to have you show your video. We have very good underwater video that Randy has made, and I think that should be of a lot of interest to you too. So stay tuned. The Cayman Islands are the hottest dive destination in the Caribbean. The water is peaceful as the diver descends the tether steadily, without haste, without effort, almost without movement. Everything looks green now on the surface above. The sea rocks backwards and forwards, gently flashing gold and silver as the sun hits the surface. The water temperature is so comfortable that the casual divers frequently wear t-shirts and swim trunks, but the more experienced divers wear diving suits to protect them from fire coral, jellyfish, and fire sponges.
fascination of watching the sea life is challenged by human life and the divers' behavior. It is an extraordinary sight to see their slow, almost solemn movements, effortless in the surrounding water, and their unhuman silence can seem to make them beings from another planet. But one of the most marvelous things of all is to see the clouds of bubbles shooting out into the water, swirling and rising upwards each time one breathes out. The glistening bubbles seem to have a life of their own, breaking up the light, shining like stars in a gray-green sky as they rise up to the surface like bunches of silver grapes. A school of flashing silver blue becomes a living, abstract painting in the Caribbean waters. Along the coasts and in relatively shallow waters, you find the most varied underwater landscapes and the greatest variety of sea creatures and water-encased flora. The crystal clear visibility underwater increases the thrill by enabling divers to see a panoramic view of the great cliffs as they drift along the face of the massive walls. The ballet with the stingrays. This unique home of tame stingrays is among the natural treasures of diving in the Caymans. You can see how the site earned the name Stingray City. Stingray City is regarded as the most unique shallow dive in the entire Caribbean. This site is a gathering place for 20 to 30 stingrays that can be hand-fed. These rays are totally unafraid of divers or snorkelers. One thinks of stingrays with their broad wings and graceful movements as almost mythological beasts, part bird and part fish. However, the dive master never lets one forget that their whip-like tails bearing a spine can create a very painful wound. As they gather around the divers, the stingrays lose their fearsome reputation and they become wondrous birds of the sea. These are so gentle that they allow humans to touch them with no repercussions. As they scrape across the faceplates of the divers, there is a feeling of trust between humans and sea creature. Hovering above this underwater desert, the rays seem to resemble aircrafts taking off as you watch them slowly taxi away from you and then rise gently into the blue-green waters. Every dive guide seems to have his or her favorite pet moray eel to show to his group. Diving is such an exhilarating experience as the divers in their wetsuits walk off a boat or wade into the ocean and then become a weightless human being, free to move in every direction through a spellbinding world. creatures in the ocean are masters of camouflage and disguise. An object that resembles a rock or a lump in the sand will begin to move, rise up, and swim away, to our amazement. The most beautiful things to be seen underwater are not at great depths. Nature has really arranged things very well because the limit imposed on the depth our scuba diving bodies can venture under the water coincides with the depth light will penetrate for divers to see this fantastic world. There are few sights on Earth that can give you such a feeling of being removed from your usual surroundings, and nothing can appear fresher and newer to a too sophisticated eye as the creatures of the ocean. Sea turtles appear as dull, plodding creatures to us on land, but viewing their graceful gliding under the water makes them seem a paradox. They are cleverly counterbalanced, colored dark above and pale below. Viewed from above, these creatures would seem to disappear against the blue of the ocean. Viewed from below, they vanish against the sunlight streaming through the water's surface. The sea holds a menagerie that constantly evokes wonder, curiosity, and amusement, and diving offers a ticket to these unique experiences. This is the doorstep of some of the best calm water diving in the Western Hemisphere, the Cayman Islands.
Thanks for showing us the video, Randy. And now my last question. You've been many places to scuba dive, but what are your most favorite spots?
Well, the favorite ones that I've been to would be Cayman, Cozumel, Jamaica. I'd like to go to Truck Lagoon in the South Pacific and to the Red Sea eventually, but I haven't yet.
What would be the difference? There must be a lot of variety in these places that you mentioned. Could you tell us some of the differences?
Yeah, the fish that evolve in different parts of the world would evolve differently, as far as you would have different fish, different colors. Also, the Red Sea, for instance, is really clear, super clear. The wall is real close to the shore, so you don't have so far to go. It's easy diving, I guess. Truck Lagoon is real popular because it has the World War II wrecks.
Oh, so that would be a completely different type of so there wouldn't be as much marine life?
Well, there'd be plenty of marine life, because marine life seems to be attracted to any type of foreign wrecks, like shipwrecks or boat or plane wrecks, whatever. They're attracted to that kind of thing. But also, it'd be neat to see the World War II planes and boats from that era.
So there was a lot of fighting going on over Truck Island in World War II, and
we bombed them real heavily, and so then the Japanese fleet went down there.
Is there much difference between diving in Cozumel and Grand Cayman and what you're going to be seeing?
Yeah, not so much in what you're going to be seeing, but Cozumel has currents. You have to, so usually it's drift diving. You jump in the water and you drift down, and then the boat picks you up and takes you back. But in Cayman is much simpler. You just jump in and there's no currents, and it's real close to shore, real simple, real easy.
And are there coral beds in both places?
Right.
Coral reefs but any different fish from one place to another, or is it just
pretty much the same fish? Cayman, they seem a little friendlier because they're used to getting fed, and so then, like, for instance, when you go down and you open up your pocket, the pockets generally have Velcro on them, and they can hear the Velcro, and they're attracted to that. They hear that sound, and they come running to get fed.
They're really well trained, aren't they? Well, I know I was amazed at seeing the pictures of the giant stingrays, and you know how friendly they were. I mean, they just, and if you wouldn't know that, and if you dive into them, I would think that would really be, you'd be startled, but they must be so used to.
Oh, sure, they get fed every day by hand.
Well, that makes it nice for the divers, because it makes it more secure. Well, now I'd like to talk about the Bismarck Public Library and some of the information that we have for the travelers. We always order the newest brochures from the tourism bureaus, and we have some things from the Cayman Islands that if anybody is going there might want to look through. And then we have the Voters Budget Travel to the Caribbean, and it gives you all the different islands in the Caribbean, including Grand Cayman, and tells you about some of the ways you could save money when you want to travel to these vacation spots. And of course, we have the Voters 91 Caribbean. That is for your regular tourist, and gives you a lot of the details about the area that you're going to go to, the expensive restaurants, the moderate restaurants, expensive hotels, moderate, inexpensive, that covers everything. So this would be a very handy book to take along with you. So I would like to thank Randy at this time for sharing his Cayman Island stories with us, and just wish that so many of us could be able to see those things in person and learn how to scuba dive.
Well, thanks for asking me to come.
Certainly. And thank you all for watching. And I'm Becky Hulskamp, and Randy Kraft and I wish all of you a pleasant journey.
miles to get to a point where he can work. What he's looking for is a particular spot on the great expanse of Lake Sakakawea. There are a few people in the boat, but only 3 that are making Randy any money. The spot is a place that's fairly close to the rocks, but not too close. And as you've probably guessed, Randy is a scuba diver instructor. He spends winters in Jamaica, and the rest of the time the Bismarck businessman spends here.
How many students in a year?
Between here and the Caribbean, 100.
Everything's provided, and the students spend $200 for 6 classroom lessons, 6 lessons in the YMCA pool where Randy works, and then it's off to Lake Sakakawea for 4 dives.
I've always wanted to go diving. Just always thought it'd be fun.
It's quiet. You can get away from everything. See lots of things. Hopefully we go to the Caribbean at Christmas time.
Well, Joyce, I'm a wimp. I don't use a wetsuit. I wear a dry suit, which means I don't get wet and I don't get cold. Normally I carry about close to 30 pounds with the dry suit on, and then of course your buoyancy offsets that.
And so the dry suits are put on, and it looks like Randy's a wimp too.
A good set of equipment with a dry suit, you could dive in North Dakota comfortably for 9-10 months out of the year.
And then the wetsuits are put on.
I'm going to have about 30 pounds of extra weight on to get me down.
Then the next step is to see if all the homework paid off. Coming up in part 2, and not a minute too soon for Carol. How'd they do taking that big dive in Mayor Television News.